podcast is brought to you by Gundog Outdoors and Dakota 283 Kennels. To save you 10% at Gundog Outdoors, head over to Gundog Outdoors at gundogoutdoors.com and use code RINGNECKS to save you 10%. To save yourself 10% on Dakota 283 Kennels and their other products, head over to dakota283.com and use code RNR10, that's RNR10, to save yourself 10%.
Hi, hunters. Thank you for tuning into the Flush'em and Dustin podcast, brought to you by Nick and Tyler, the boys from Ringnecks and Retrievers. In this podcast, we will talk about guns, dogs, gear, and our successes and failures in the field through our combined 40 years of experience. We speak with hunters just like you from across the nation about their days in the field and the many memories they built with their friends and family. We are excited to have you listen. Now let's get to Flush'em and Dustin. Welcome back, hunters, to another Flush'em and Dustin Power Hour. Tonight we have a good group of guests on. We're going to answer a few questions that we had sent in by our fans. Obviously, we're going to go around the horn and introduce everybody. Nick Duran, co-founder with Tyler Melcher, and I'm going to ask, since he's been on before, Nate Strickler to just quick introduce himself. Nate, I know you've been on a couple times, but just snap off a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, third Power Hour, if memory serves. So Nate Strickler, calling in from Central Iowa. Instagram handle is Nate P. Strickler. Proud owner of 3 Vizslas here in the house, 2 still hunting, 1 retired. Have been bird hunting, upland hunting, pheasant, mostly pheasant, but some quail too, since the mid-90s. And looking forward to the discussion tonight as well.
Dusty, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Dustin Hopkins, calling in from Montana. Have a 22-month-old golden retriever, and this past season was kind of our first hunting season. Stepping away from growing up under hunting with dad and grandpa and stuff like that. So it was a season where learned how to kind of train them and just kind of how to bird hunt out here, because I've been kind of strictly doing kind of some more big game stuff out here. So it was a good first season, and hungry for more this fall.
Awesome.
Nice. Branson?
Yeah,
is your mustache getting given an update, or just you?
Well, still haven't trimmed it. During the off season, just letting it go. So
looking good, man. It's
really,
looking good. I like it,
man. I appreciate it. All input is welcome on it, and I love the feedback from it. But
don't ever trim it.
No, don't plan on it. It's done. It's here to stay. Branson Shelton with 3 Rivers Outdoors is my Instagram tag. 3 Rivers Outdoors. Okay, I got 2 German wirehair pointers, 1 Dutch Draught Haar from Southeast Oklahoma, quail hunter. Just using these dogs to be the total outdoorsman.
Nice.
Solid.
Brian?
Last but not least, Brian.
I'm Brian Grave. Instagram handle Grave Brian. I got a 3-year-old Brittany and a 2-year-old small Munster. I'm a pheasant hunter up here in Northwest Iowa.
Nice. Awesome. Well, guys, thanks again for coming on to the Power Hour. We definitely appreciate it. So this week we have a couple exciting questions that we're excited to get into. And so we'll jump right into it. The first one we have is how many of us have a hunting mentor, which I'm assuming, most people have a mentor that helped them get into hunting. So we're going to go around the horn and start off with, give us a story of who your mentor is, how they got you into hunting, and go from there.
Yeah. I can go. This is obviously Nick here, but I'll jump in right away. I would say my first hunting mentor was my dad. My grandpa owned a couple farms, so we were able to go hunting on that. But my dad kind of faded out of that role, and I turned to actually my old high school basketball coach, who was Brian Sorensen, avid hunter. I learned to duck hunt from him, actually, is when I really got into duck hunting in high school, and I did that every weekend almost. That kind of faded out, the whole duck hunting thing, only because I moved away and it wasn't convenient for me to go see him. So just based on friends and things I used to do, I kind of started going on my own. So now you all happen to be my mentors. I've learned a lot from Nate. He's been on several. I'm gonna try to take that away. Brian's gave some info. Branson, you've been on for sure. And then obviously Tyler and I are always running ideas by each other. So as of right now, you're my mentors. I don't have anybody in particular that I'm looking up to. So I really enjoy these things.
Yeah, for sure. And I piggyback off that, Nick, is I've learned since we've started Ringnecks and Retrievers and social media platform and started this, is the information I've learned from all of our guests, from people reaching out to us, has been great. It's helped me a ton in the upland field. My mentor for not pheasant hunting, but hunting in general was my grandpa as well. He lived up in Northeast Iowa, similar to same country that Nick grew up in. But he's the one who got me into hunting, first into squirrel hunting. I think that's what a lot of us Iowans start with, and maybe outside of Iowa, I don't know. But man, first gun was a little 22. You know, it took us out squirrel hunting. Super enjoyable. And then there was a guy in my hometown that he had labs that got me into pheasant hunting, and his nickname is Bear. He's just a big burly dude. He actually used to up in northern Wisconsin, I believe it was. He actually used to run dogs with run dogs for bears. So that's kind of also how he got his name. But yeah, just a big burly dude, had labs, and he was the first guy that introduced me to pheasant hunting, and that's kind of where I fell in love with the retriever world. Don't all speak at once.
Dustin, why don't you go? You're next on my screen anyway.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, as far as hunting mentors go, it's definitely gotta go to my dad. He back in the 80s was just a nut, a small game hunting nut. He ran beagles and would hunt rabbits and pheasants and everything. And we're from Michigan, so I guess back then the pheasant population was a bit better. And he's got these photos of, old time, cruising around Michigan and everything. And he would go out to trips to Iowa with some of his buddies and stuff. So as I got older and was able to, hunt, one of my first, other than like some preserves and stuff like that, in the teenage years, I went out with him and one of his old buddies to Iowa, actually, in I think the year 2001, and got a wild rooster out there. And
best hunt in your life, probably, out in Iowa.
Oh man, it was good at the time, being younger guy, just soaking it all in. But yeah, it was a long drive, and we were hunting I think a German short hair pointer.
Remember where in Iowa?
I don't remember where, and I don't exactly. Yeah, I'd probably have to ask him where that was, but I even had to scratch my brain like, when did we go to Iowa? But since then, Michigan, as we got older, the pheasant population was just in little pockets and rooster ranches and stuff. So we would kind of go to the North Woods and hunt grouse and everything. And then I've since, moved out to Montana, and everything's kind of been really self-taught. And my dad never used dogs other than the beagles he had in the 80s. But so, since moving out here, I will kind of piggyback also off like what Nick and Tyler were saying, is moving out here and trying to learn, getting my first dog that's my own, that I'm responsible for training and everything. I was scrolling through Instagram looking for, any info and stuff like that, and just kind of seeing what's out there. And ironically enough, come across, the Ringneck and Retriever page, and I was like, oh, there's dudes hunting birds with Goldens. Haven't really seen this too much. And so I kind of was seeing some of the training they were doing, and I kind of reached out with some questions and stuff, and we just kind of have conversed since then. So yeah, it's been social media for kind of the do-it-yourself, hunter bird dog guy. Yeah, it's been great. So
And we're by no
And-
means experts, just to confirm that, but we like to help
And,
as much as we can.
and Dusty, I
Yeah.
think you are honestly one of our very first followers that we had.
Oh, yeah.
No joke. That's how small we were. But yeah,
They've
that's
got
pretty
your picture
awesome.
framed
Yeah.
up on their walls, Dustin.
Yeah, got
He's
the
stuck with
hat
us
early
since
on.
the beginning, so must be doing something right, I guess.
Yeah, it was just nice to be able to, because I would ask stuff to like my dad or his buddy that ran the GSP, and then now does a Brittany, and that guy was kind of very old timer way of training and everything, and a lot of the stuff I was like, well, what do you think about this for my golden, and it just didn't really apply. So I guess finding people that were just having the experience of hunting and training the dogs, whether pros or not, just having stuff to bounce ideas off people that will talk back and forth. This is so helpful. So it's been good.
That's great. Nate, you're next on my screen, so I'm just going right down the line, fellas.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, and I think you've all you've all shared largely what I have on mine too. And you don't know how lucky you are to have forums like this, just generally the medium that we have had since mid to late 2000s, just being able to connect with people, like-minded people, and have those exchanges, Dustin, as you had shared. My experience was different, right? I didn't have that opportunity. I was very much dependent upon who I knew, right, and what connections I had, and then listening to those stories, asking questions, etc. So, and some of you have heard this before, but I didn't grow up really in a hunting family, right? I do remember, Tyler, as you had mentioned, 22, squirrels, rabbits, that type of stuff, just very infrequently with my dad, just loose memories in that regard, but nothing substantial. Really didn't become a hunter until my college roommate in the mid 90s took me back to his hometown, Prairie City. His name's Kevin Steenhook, still a very good friend of mine now. His father at the time had a wire hair. That was my first experience hunting pheasants behind a dog. I was enamored with the point. Back then, there was no big block. There was very little brome at all. There was certainly no CRP. It was mostly draws in ag fields. We would hunt draws. The bird dog would go on point at the end. It was fantastic. And birds would flush up. Numbers were great, right? Cover was easy to walk. Dog work was good. Farm dogs were good dogs back then. So very much I owe the introduction to upland hunting and specifically pheasant hunting to my college roommate, Kevin. And as mentioned, still very good friends with him. He came up with labs. So I spent a lot of time hunting behind his dogs, labs. And now he's got GSPs, and we still get together at least a couple times a year to do a hunt. Usually me taking him now, which I very much enjoy. Additionally, a good friend of mine that I hunt with a good amount of time during season, at least 50% of the time I'm out. His name's Jason Pendergraph. He came up, moved into central Iowa from the south, Oklahoma, spent some time in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, had pointers. He grew up with pointers hunting quail, kind of Branson, as you had mentioned. Just loves that aspect. When he moved into town, he had an older pointer at that time. I brought him along, took his old dog out. We got on some Iowa pheasants, and friendship since then, my gosh, 15 plus years ago, is very strong. Still one of my best friends today. So I owe, it's not necessarily that I have a direct mentor, a single person, but many friends still today that both introduced me to the sport, that joined me in hunting, right? And then certainly others from a training aspect. I ask questions just as Dustin had shared, he asked of you, Tyler, and you, Nick. I have friends like that I do the same.
Yeah, Dustin, I know everybody on here has information too, but we've learned a lot from Nate on just his experience. So find him on Instagram, see what he's doing. Reach out to him as well. I'm sure he doesn't mind that either. So
No, not at all. Happy to talk.
Because as much as I like to act like it, I don't know everything.
None of us do.
That's awesome.
Brian, you're next to my screen, so we'll have you go.
Well, my hunting mentor and the person that got it all started for me was my old man, like so many other hunters. First time I went deer hunting, I was 12. I think the first time I followed him in pheasant hunting, I was 7 or 8. I think I was 7 or 8. He got me a slingshot and a sack of marbles, and hunting is everything I've been about since that point. And my dad, he's had back surgery. He's not able to hunt anymore. So that's been a disappointing thing. But I've started getting my wife into hunting. So I've moved more from the having a mentor to being the mentor.
That's cool.
And my kids are starting getting a little bit older, getting them into shooting.
Yeah.
And then more of my mentor has been in the dog training side, because I grew up with labs, with flushing dogs, but now I run 2 pointers. So there's been a whole bunch of things I've learned from just various people all over the place.
Nice. Brian, I just want to say, you're super lucky. It's always nice when we do this because you're always outside every podcast.
I'm trying to police my kids and pay attention to this. So it's trouble right now.
That's a lot of work right there. How has it been trying to get your wife into the upland game?
Well, the whole reason I got my second dog is because 3 years ago, she asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I told her she wanted to go pheasant hunting. Within 2 weeks, she had decided if she was going to go pheasant hunting, she was going to have her own dog.
Dang, that's impressive.
And I wish that would work for me. Shit.
Oh, nice. So how many did she join you in the field last year, or how long has she been going with you?
I've had her out the last 2 seasons. She's probably been out 15 times between the last 2 years.
Nice.
And bagged her own bird?
She has not yet.
Okay.
That's all right. Well, we all miss. It's okay.
I started getting my wife out hunting. She has got her own bird, but it's been a pheasant farm, so not a wild bird by any means.
Yeah.
But she has shot and got one. And then we got old Branson Shelton Elstachio over here. He's gonna give us his rundown.
Yes, as far as hunting mentor, it has to go to my dad, my grandpa. We grew up in a super small town. I think we have like 500 people, maybe. We have 2 stop signs on our main street. Schools shut down during hunting season. Like the first 9 days of our rifle season, everything just shuts down. Then quail season picks up after the first 9 days. So we just roll into that. And I mean, just the hunter is the cultural icon in southeastern Oklahoma.
School shut down?
Oh yeah, man. Like teachers ain't gonna be there, kids ain't gonna be there. They're all heading out to deer camp.
That's crazy.
Growing up, the quail population had dropped down so low here at home that I really wasn't able to hunt very much, or to get any public land bird hunting behind any bird dogs. But back in the day, between my dad and my grandpa on my mom's side, the only reason why they deer hunted was because they would do that in between quail hunting, and they had bird dogs. My dad was more of the shooter, but my grandpa was always more of the dog trainer. He just had a knack for these dogs. But once I started getting into it, yeah, he ran L. Hughes, a bunch of English pointers. Yeah. And man, he had everything. He's had beagles for rabbits. He's had coon dogs and stuff. So trying to train dogs, I'm trying to take after him. A lot of it just comes natural from him. But as far as hunting with them, he was just a little bit too old to get out there by the time our quail numbers started getting back up into a hunting population. And for me, having somebody to hunt with, but training them, he was always my mentor to go to talk to. Like, hey, here's what I've got going. Here's what I want to do. What do you think? Walk me through this. And man, up until the day we lost him, he was just super full of knowledge and just an outstanding dog man.
Nice.
And then just getting to hunt with my dad, he's always somebody I could always call up. Well, it's rainy today. It's late season. What do I need to be looking for? And he hasn't really quail hunted for a long time just because of our numbers, but he can still like pinpoint you to a spot that's going to be dynamite. I mean, just out of the back of his mind, it's pretty cool to do.
Yeah, I mean, that That's super cool, and it's also cool. Like I think what we've tried to start here. Basically, we're all each other's mentors. We're trying to help each other. Now
Oh
that I
yeah,
know
man.
that, Nate is right in my backyard, closer to season, we'll probably have to get together for a beer and just talk hunting.
Yeah. It,
So
what we got going on here, just using social media, is one of the coolest things because
Oh,
I
man.
mean, this is nationwide, but
it
it
is.
just makes everything so much smaller. And I mean, we're all close because we all had the same ideals, we all had the same goals, what we're working towards. I think it's just one of the coolest things to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome how receptive the upland community is to questions, to giving out information. I mean, not hotspots,
Yeah.
obviously, but
Uh,
to helping your dogs, to helping you learn. I mean, it's awesome just how, like you said, how small the world has kind of become to help us grow.
yeah, and I've not met anyone that's just closed-minded and does not want anyone else to start partaking in upland hunting or gun dogs or anything.
Just being
And
successful.
where I'm at, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, everyone I've ran into just it wants me to be just as successful as them, and
Yep.
I just think that's awesome. And we got there's just not very many quail hunters here at home anymore. So I have joined it's Try Upland. You can find them on Instagram where you can actually submit yourself to be a mentor for people. And that's one thing that I'm wanting to start doing to try to bring more kids and anyone that's willing to go quail hunting here at home, to be a mentor for people.
Yeah,
So Nate and Branson, how does that work?
Speaking of that, I want to give Nate props because I know he's been doing this. He's been taking kids out, mentoring them, getting them into hunting. I think it's super cool. I think it's something, yeah, like Tyler said, how do we do this? How do we become a mentor? Would love to do it.
Yeah, the Try Upland site, I do talk to those folks, well, social media exchanges, right? Instagram exchanges with these folks. For the past, they're not that old, Branson. I don't think. Maybe they have. I don't even know if they've been around a year. But this past season, I was definitely talking with them. Yeah.
No, not even a year. I think it was
Yeah.
Isaac Neal and Nathaniel Lakey. You can find them on Instagram. Those
Yeah.
one of the two head guys in it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not been around very long.
Yeah, Lakey's Instagram is cool. He's got great photos.
Mm-hmm.
So how does it work? In my experience, and I don't know if my experience is the same as everybody else's, but it hasn't yet netted any connections. Like nobody net new has reached out to me, but I've offered my time and services for that potential to happen. And then the same thing, Pheasants Forever does the same thing, right? A mentorship pledge or something like that, of which I'm a part of as well, but it hasn't netted any net new connections just yet. And actually, I think that's something that sorry, my female Vishal is trying to want some loving right now. That's something that I think we haven't yet figured out. We within the upland community, despite very much wanting to help each other and not be closed-minded, I agree with what you had shared, Branson. I don't think we've yet figured out how to really establish connection between private individuals. A lot of the focus from charitable or nonprofit organizations, youth hunts, youth shoots, things like that, game farm stuff. Nick, as you had mentioned, right, your wife shooting a bird at a game farm. I think we've done that well, but we haven't yet tapped into what I think is the biggest market and opportunity for us, and that's connecting private individuals to private individuals that can take advantage of their land that they own or land that they have access to. And that I think that lends to ideally lighting a fire in our youth, right? So that your kids have similar or better, ideally better opportunity than we do today. So
it's a great idea.
Yeah, that is a very good idea. Do you basically just go to tryupland.com, fill out a form, and is it open to like all states? So, Dusty, could he fill it out and people out in Montana could contact him
so.
or?
Yeah, I believe so.
I didn't know
I think
if it
they
was
had reached
Midwest or.
No, I think it's nationwide. If memory serves, they had reached out to me. I think they pay attention. They do a nice job seeing who is kind of consistently involving youth and
Yeah.
reach out, and we shared stories and talked strategy a little bit, and then they pointed me in that direction. So
Okay.
credit to them, and they're, I'm fully behind, their intent and supportive of their mission for sure.
Yeah, to me, it definitely helps out getting into the youth. I mean, it's one thing to be an adult wanting to get into it, but if you really want to hit home and like really create a hunter that's going to follow suit or follow through all the way through their adulthood and get their own dogs, keep on doing this, hitting them young is the key, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. So is there
I don't
like
think your mic's working, Tyler.
now is it?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay.
Yep.
So the questionnaire or anything, do they have like certain requirements as a hunter that you have to meet to be a mentor, or is it because like obviously you don't want just anybody coming up, and mentoring people. You obviously want experience, good gun experience, safety, whatnot. I just didn't know if they kind of go through and have random, questions that they want answered prior to like accepting you into be a mentor.
I don't recall that personally. I don't know, Branson, was your experience? It was really completing a web form. They reached out, they said, hey, will you do this? Sure, no problem. Had back and forth exchange, send me a link, complete a web form, and that was the last I heard of it.
Same. I don't recall anything like that, but I'm sure, I don't know. I figured you'd have to have something to be willing to follow through with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe Branson and I didn't pass the background checks. Maybe
We
that's
might not
the
have.
That's funny. So Branson, how are the quail numbers coming into another question? How are the quail numbers down in Oklahoma? I mean, one of our questions was, why aren't people hunting quail in Iowa? But I mean, I think we all know the numbers are slowly coming back, but you mentioned earlier how's the quail numbers looking down there?
So I can't speak for Western Oklahoma, which is normally the go-to location that anyone wants to come to hunt quail. I mean, when you talk about going pheasant hunting, everyone has their target set on South Dakota and somewhere in the Midwest. But for quail, it's always been Western Oklahoma. Where I'm at in far as southeastern Oklahoma is completely different terrain and different landscape and habitat for them. So it's going to be a little bit skewed. But I would say in the past 4 years, our numbers have steadily been coming up, maybe even longer than that. But our wildlife biologists here for the state have been really doing a jam up job, just staying on top of it. We do a late season timber hunt where the guys from Quail Forever will come down with our biologists and we'll examine the crops of every bird that we harvest and the age. Try to figure out what they're eating, what's going on, and how we can better the habitat around them. Because where I'm at is all managed for by timber companies, so there's a lot of clear cuts, and it's going to create a lot of diverse habitat. But they have been coming up, and this year was the first year in 4 years that I have felt comfortable even pulling the trigger on the covey. I bagged one bird. I stuffed it in my pocket and I headed to the truck. And now I was done after that. I was completely satisfied.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just steadily coming up. There's a lot of good work going on. It's hard to speak for the rest of the country, what's going on. But I know right now we're seeing a lot of rain, which is not ideal at this time. And I'm really kind of worried about it. I plan on going out this weekend to start doing my just whistle count surveys. I mean, the state does their own, but I like to get up there to kind of get a head start on them myself and kind of jot down my locations also.
Yeah, for sure. That's good scouting. I know Nate, last year I saw you posted one day you bagged out early, which seems like you do a lot of, but that you were heading to look for some quail. Did you find some luck in Iowa this past year? And if so, how did you find the luck?
We did. And this, as ironic as it might sound, my best quail days were when I wasn't chasing quail. I just lucked into them. I'll be honest. I am not a quail guy. And this is where I rely on my buddy Jason, that's from the South, who he's just got that. One of you had just mentioned, I think it might have been Branson, talked about, right? His dad can just pinpoint that stuff. That's kind of how my buddy is from a quail habitat perspective. And I think the day that you're referencing, Tyler, I don't think we got into them. There's
Excited
my
right
dogs
there.
in the background. Yeah.
They're like, oh, quail, what?
Yeah, that's right. We worked our way south. We put, I don't know, 300 miles on just scouting, looking for habitat, getting out and putting miles on the boots. And I don't think we even got into a covey. But we did have a few instances. I didn't shoot many quail, maybe, I don't even know what it is, seven to
Yeah.
10 quail. And for a lot of years, I mean, a whole lot of years, until last season, 2 seasons ago, in fact, was the first time I even pulled the trigger on a quail, because I didn't see the numbers there. And then at that point in time, we didn't shoot them until I didn't shoot them, and my buddy didn't shoot them until we saw a 9th bird, because we figured 8 they could covey up and endure the colder temps.
Yeah.
I've always heard that once a covey gets below 10, their chances of survival just dramatically starts decreasing.
Well, damn, you're up. So I thought it was 8. So now I got to look for 10. I can't shoot until I see 11 now.
Damn.
It might be that way down here. It's tough down here.
Well, it's a hell of a lot colder up here.
Do you know why
True.
their chances diminish when it's lower? Do they huddle together for body warmth all winter, or is it?
Yeah, they huddle in a circle, right, with their kind of heads facing out, and they use each other for body warmth.
Okay. Nice. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw some quail this year, even up by Cedar Rapids area.
Missed them, but yeah, other than that.
My dog caught one, so I didn't have to even shoot, which was pretty cool. After we had some good amount of snow, so they couldn't really do much walking on it, but they were under a pine tree thicket, and she did her little point thing that she does sometimes and dove in, and I mean, her whole body was basically underneath the snow, and comes out and she had a quail in her mouth, and I was like happy but not happy, because I was like, oh dang it, I didn't really want her to get it, just because I've only seen them out here the past 2 years, so trying to get them to survive and whatnot is always nice to see.
Does your Goldens, do they work quail any differently than, like, say, a pointing dog would? Or no, don't even answer it like that. Do your dogs work quail differently than pheasant?
They do the same. I mean, if a pheasant's holding tight, Lola will point on it. Murph sometimes does, but the only thing that maybe is a little different is she'll get maybe a little lower to the ground, because the quail is a little lower. I don't teach her to keep her head up or anything. But other than that, I haven't noticed any difference in them. Nicky, when I've seen Diesel, I don't think he's.
No, he's pretty much the same. You can just tell he's got one kind of birdie style, and it's on once that happens. So no, he hasn't. I don't think he's in the last 6 years. I haven't seen any change from quail to pheasant, but that could also be because I've went and took him to pheasant farms, and I've bought quail and pheasant and hunted them. So
yeah.
Might be one of the benefits of just running a pointing dog. Just from seeing their body language, I can always tell, like, when it's going to be a covey of quail versus the pheasant. I mean, they're just
Right.
the scent cone, I think, is just so much stronger on a covey that hasn't flushed yet.
Yeah.
agree.
Are they pointing further away or?
Further away, yeah.
Yeah.
And a pheasant, which when I'm up there in pheasant country, I know what's going to be anyway. But there's always a chance that there could be a mixed bag opportunity. Could be some quail. You'll just see them just a lot more sure nosed. You won't see them relocate like once. That's just a staunch point right off the bat. So once you start seeing that, you kind of can look at your cover and know there's a good chance it's going to be a quail. So
yeah, I agree. Same with my dogs. It always takes them a little bit, because we just don't see a lot of wild quail, and when we do, Typically, my dogs are a little soft up front because they're not big coveys. Branson, they're a lot of singles
Yeah.
initially, or a handful of birds, just not big coveys. But once they dial it in, it is a different look.
Hmm.
And the quail are great because they hold tight, right? So the dog's high and tail high, head high, staunch. It's very pretty. I could see why people get into quail hunting. If we had the numbers here, I would
Yeah.
definitely
And they're fast
be an
sons
active
of
hunter.
bitches too.
They're hard to hit.
Dustin, have you had any experience with quail out? I guess I don't even know if there's quail out in Montana.
No, I've never. No, there's no quail out here, and nor have I ever, hunted, at a farm or trained or anything with them. So, no quail opportunities for me. But yeah,
You guys have diverse birds out there, though. You have
yeah. So
You have sharp-tailed, don't you?
tons of sharptail. Just a few years ago, learning really what they were. I know the first time it was when I just got the dog. My dog, he was born in August, so the first season with him, I was like, he's too young. I haven't, done any like gun proofing with him, so I just kind of went not too far from my house, and I bumped into sharptail and bumped into Huns out there. And it just was kind of like, the first sharptail that goes up, I was like, a coworker of mine was kind of she's a bit of an upland hunter, and I was like, okay, so this bird, they came from a covey, they did this, and they did this little like hoot laugh as they were flying away. I'm like, what bird was that? Because Michigan, we've got, where I'm from, you got rough grouse, and I heard way up north there are sharptail, but never have seen one before. So here I am out here, just probably looking like an idiot. Like, what are these birds? Can I shoot them? What is this? So it was a fun learning experience. And then this year, knowing what all was out there and knowing what bag limits were on everything. You want to talk about a mixed bag? There's a spot about 45 minutes from me. It's a wildlife or a waterfowl production area, and I was able to get a rooster, 2 Huns, and missed the sharptail. And typically, everybody always says if you're looking for sharptail, you won't find pheasant, and vice versa. Well, this spot of land, I found all 3. So luck of the draw. But as far as the Huns, I'd really like to focus on those a lot more. They're a little bit more sporadic, but I kind of know where they are. But sharptail are everywhere, and pheasants out here are just driving the back roads and stuff. The other day I did a drive that was only a couple miles and counted like 7. So diverse species. And we do have a sage grouse season that goes the month of September. I believe it's still standing, that it's like the 1st through the 30th, and you got to travel a bit kind of more northeast to get onto the sage grouse areas. But and then if you go kind of more in the woods and stuff like that, you've got kind of your typical like mountain grouse, you've got kind of your rough grouse and stuff. So yeah, you can, and it's kind of the balance now, being out here and knowing all the opportunities. I'm like, when am I going to find time to squeeze in, to deer hunt or elk hunt? And
you're not going to.
Yeah, I feel bad. I'm like, I did a little bit of deer hunting and nothing worked out. They were all on private land. They seem to know, and I just kind of felt bad leaving the dog behind. Where I'm like, he was like, I see you gearing up. You've got a gun. Why am I not going? So
yeah, I used to from 7th, 8th grade year till I was out of college, maybe a little even after that. I used to deer hunt, turkey hunt, pheasant hunt, duck, goose. I did everything. And now I'm just pheasant hunting.
Keeps you busy.
Yeah.
But man, I tell you guys, all this talking about birds and shooting them, it's got us a little hungry. Well, me a little hungry. I haven't ate supper yet, and it's pretty late. But one of our questions was, what are some of our favorite meals to cook up after bringing the birds home? So honestly, I don't really have like anything special that I do. I did start this year breading the pheasant or quail and putting it in a air fryer and then mixing it with some wild rice and like cream of chicken soup and making a nice smorgasbord type meal. It actually turned out pretty good. But I mean, I'm open to hear some good recipes.
So I'll go. One thing I did this past year was I cut it up into like chicken strips, basically, or boneless wings, if you will. And I made them like I make my boneless wings. And man, I think they were better than chicken wings. It was fantastic.
Well, how'd you make them?
So I do an hour on. I usually put a rub on them, put them on for an hour.
Are you using a
pull 'em
smoker?
off. I'm using a smoker, Camp Chef smoker is what I have. So I smoke them for an hour, and then I pull them off, and then I put the usually barbecue sauce on them, and then I let that on there for another hour, and then you pull them off, and man, they're so good. They're fantastic. And you can use any rub you want, any barbecue sauce you want, but that's how I did mine. And even Bree was like, my wife was just like, man, I think these are better than that chicken. I was like, I agree. So
What's
try
your
that
temp?
out.
What's your smoke temp?
High smoke, so 225.
Yeah. I also do a lot of smoking. I don't do anything special. I've got 3 kids at home. Expediency, getting stuff done fast. Going through the volume of pheasants that we bring home to stay legal is probably priority for us. But any way you cook chicken, we can cook it. I do a lot of smoking as well. I still like, some of the purists think this is sacrilegious, but I like having bacon involved in recipes.
Yes.
Don't overcook wild game, including pheasant. If you overcook it, it gets dry, right? But back in the 90s, it used to be cream and mushroom soup in a crock pot, right? There weren't air fryers and all that, or even smokers. But now a lot of smoking, a lot of any chicken casserole type meal. Also do chicken strips or chicken nuggets type, or pheasant strips, pheasant nuggets, all that type of stuff as well. But the smoker is definitely your friend. You can go low and slow, right? And make sure you keep that tender, the tenderness to the meat, and I think that's key.
What kind of
Very
smoke are
good.
you using, Nate? Traeger?
Well, we just got funny you should ask. We just got a RecTech, just got the RecTech 700, and I carried that heavy son of a bitch around to the back. But until then, we were just using a cheap electric smoker, honestly. And
Yeah.
most of the time, I would just do breasts, and I'd wrap breasts in bacon. Wouldn't even pin them with toothpicks, and I just do that at 225 until it got to 165 and pull them.
Yep.
Take about 52 minutes, I think it was. And my kids we would just roll through the pheasant that way.
Nice. It's a good idea. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do more bacon wrap pheasant.
Yeah. Oh, one more came to mind. If you strip them out, and this is the key. Here, you want a nugget? This is the nugget. When you have a pheasant breast, take the tender off. I'm assuming most of you take the tender off. Is that right? Okay. And then you peel the film off the tender, right? Okay. Set that aside, soak that tender. Next day, pull the tendon out of the tender. Make sure you do that before you cook it or eat it. So much better. Then here's the part that I think most people don't do. On the breast, where it was connecting to the wing, you can see the white tendon there, and it runs down through the breast. Just like if you're filleting a walleye pike or something like that, fillet that tendon out of there before you strip it. So Nick, I stripped that into 3. So then I have the tender and then 3 strips out of the breast, and you pull that ligament or that tendon out of that. It's so much more tender. That's your pro
That's a
tip.
game changer.
I'll have to
Pro
try
tip,
that.
boys.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
I gotta say, I have tried Tyler's recipe for the air fryer last year, and we went nuts for that. I mean, we wouldn't even go for Chick-fil-A anymore. We're just gonna fry some of those things up, like
Yeah.
just some nuggets. That's dynamite, man.
Hell yeah, taking over. It did. It turned out super good. I was surprised. I think it all depends on the breading you have on it too, a little bit.
Yeah.
Give it a little extra flavor, and as long as you don't put it in there too long, and like Nate said, dry it out, because log game you can dry out pretty easily. But and that first time I had it, I was like, oh, poor little
Yeah, but we
ranch
went
on
through them
there.
quick. I was pretty pumped up about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got a nice crispy outside in the air fryer and still moist on the inside.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to give
And
that a go.
And I did it like I didn't put many in at once, just to give it a nice even air through the air
Yeah,
fryer. I
exposure,
think if you
yeah.
put too many in, it gets a little uneven, and maybe your top ones, get more done a lot quicker. So I just kept it one level. So it took a little bit longer, with, I was speaking with kids, it'd be pretty hard to probably do that unless you had a nice size air fryer, just to satisfy them quick enough. But yeah, it's pretty good. Tastes pretty good.
Cool.
In my neck of the woods, if you aren't taking your quail, and I do the same thing with pheasant also, but if you aren't taking them, just battering them and fried, I mean, that's a cardinal sin, man. Just throw them in some cast iron with some hot grease, and
Yeah,
you will never be let
that's some
down.
good old Southern cooking.
That's right, man.
Sure.
Make some gravy up with your grease after that. You're in for a treat. But I also do all the smoking also. I got a pellet smoker, and man, just to throw a pheasant breast on there, and I do it strips also. Man, it always turns out great. As long as you get to that temp right, it's always good.
Same thing. You usually roll at 225 or so.
About 225, yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think the pellet grills have done wonders for the outdoor cooking.
I mean, I won't use anything else if I'm cooking. I that's all I ever use. I love my smoker.
Yeah, man, it is.
Yeah, for deer meat, for pheasant, like you said, Tyler, any wild game that's so lean, it's just going to dry out so fast, and you just really dial in your temperature and just walk away and not really be too concerned about it. It's where it's at.
Yeah, I agree.
Guess I gotta get a smoker.
You do, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
So,
I just did ribs this past weekend. I like to do wings, and I did a brisket the other weekend. I almost every weekend I smoke some meat.
nice.
Nate, check out Old Station Meat Market in Waukee if you haven't been there.
Okay. My wife just went up to that new place that opened in Ankeny. Can't even remember what it's called.
Oh, I heard that was open. I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, just opened, grand opening. She brought back a bunch of meat, and we did a brisket as well.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys found out a proper way to use any of the legs off of a pheasant?
I kind of have a suggestion of kind of what I was doing. It's kind of different. We're doing like pheasant noodle soup. So basically, you just kind of, you get your bird and you kind of pull off, like you would get like a rotisserie chicken or something, but kind of trim and pull off everything you can. You can do legs and scraps and stuff, and then kind of boil that all and cook it, and then you of course add that to your chicken noodle soup, or your chicken broth and everything like that. And it turned out really well, and we were able to get quite a few meals out of it. At one time I got the pheasant and the 2 huns. I had all the meat, and I was like, all right, we'll just have a multi-species little noodle soup. And yeah, even the wife was like, yeah, this is pretty good. But as far as anything else cook wise, it's just kind of simple, roasting them and stuff. So yeah, as far as cooking them, I've got a lot to learn, and lots of got to sift through a lot of recipes. So but yeah, maybe kind of some soups or something for the legs.
I've got I got a couple gallon bags of legs sitting in my freezer, and it pains me to throw away any amount of meat like that. So I'm bound and determined to find a way to use these things, whether it be taco or soup or something like, anything like that.
A couple gallon bags of legs, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
So here's what I've done a couple things. So back before I had so many time commitments with the kids, is I used to take the whole leg off like that, and then I would smoke them, right? And then I'd strip the meat like you're making like shredded pork off that, because I trust we all know it's the tendons within the legs that makes them a pain in the ass, right? So you've got a couple approaches. You can cook them whole and then strip the meat off. And we would just do then smoked meat in baggies and actually eat them while we're hunting. I used to do that many, many years ago. But it's a lot of work. And then, so there's different ways in which, you can clean to try to remove the tendons. None of them have worked great for me. So what I usually do, and I have a video on YouTube where I can show you how I do this. But the top side is basically knee up, if you will. The under half, which is the thigh, that's like the chicken thigh, right? I take that off and I fillet basically at the knee, then down along the bone and off. So I have the chicken thigh, and then I pull it apart with my hands, and then you've got the vein in there. I pull that vein out, and it looks just like a small chicken thigh. And then I eat that. And then the top side of that I take off, and I'll usually throw that in for ground, because I'll do ground as well. The bottom, I take the top and bottom off the leg, also filleting straight down to the bone, then off, and I pull it out with my fingers so I don't have tendons, and that goes in the dog meat. So all pheasants that I clean, I take every bit of meat, organs, everything, and when I get done hunting, I boil that up, and then the dogs have that on top of their dry food every time we get done eating. So there's no waste on my side. So that's what awesome. I do pretty consistently. A cool tip somebody showed me, getting back to the mentoring thing, been hunting for 30 years, right? Somebody I took out last year, he's here in Central Iowa as well. He just reached out and asked if I'd take him. He showed me a tip, and this is pretty cool. You take the leg off, so you have the whole leg off, and then at the knee of the leg, see if I can explain this. You basically take your fillet knife and you go around the circle, the entire circumference of the bone at the knee. Then you pinch it with your fingers right there, squeeze really hard against the bone, and slide it off. And then what you have is the entirety of the upper leg in one piece. And then you can just rip that, and it unfolds, and it looks, again, just like that, like a chicken thigh. It's pretty slick. And then you could just grill them up or do anything that you want, throw them on a smoker, etc. It's a really clean way in which to get that off.
Huh. Nice.
So you basically like debone it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Nice.
It's like it looks just like a small chicken thigh when you do it that latter way.
That's pretty legit.
And if they're not shot up, that's what I'll do first. If they're shot up and I got to work around BBs or what have you, then I'll just take as much as I can and either grind it for my use or throw it in the pot for the dogs.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good idea to use it for the top of the dog food. I'm gonna have to do that. Give them a little treat.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
Waste
Brian, you got anything?
Oh, my favorite thing for pheasant legs. I don't know if any of you guys ever used an Instapot before. It's an electric pressure cooker. But if you cook your pheasant legs in there, they're super easy to pick all those tendons off once you find where they're all running. And also the liquid you use when you're cooking in there, then you have pheasant stock when you're done.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Resourceful, you guys. Jeez. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is
much more than I am.
How many do you throw in, Brian? How many legs do you put in the Instapot?
Oh, 6 or 8 at a time, kind of depending on how much I can fit.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Are they laying on top of each other? Do you got them kind of spread out? Like, I guess what's your...
It's just kind of like a metal stock bowl that fits inside of them. You just pile them full, and then you just fill it up to the top, or fill it above the meat with water and set it to cook for about 45 minutes.
Nice. I have to look at that old Instapot. I've heard of them, never used one though. So
Yeah, good.
They
Awesome.
could be worth it if you're able to save those legs and meet them. So
yeah,
Yeah.
all 2 gallons or all gallon bags of them. So
For sure, the top side. I mean, the top side of the leg is really easy. Branson, give that a try. Thaw one out. And
yeah, well, I really like the thigh part, and I do that a lot.
Yeah.
Whenever we fry them, and man, they turn out great. But
Yeah.
just the drumstick part is the
yes.
biggest deal. I hate wasting.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And Nate, you said you had a YouTube video of.
Yeah, how I think it's like a 6 minute long clip. Hit me up and I can show you how I clean the entirety of a pheasant.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which includes what I do with the legs, obviously how I breast the bird out, and then I take and then what goes to the dog, etc.
Nice. That'd be an awesome video to
You might
share.
as well just send that over because I want to see it.
All right.
I'm not
I'll
gonna hit you.
find it.
I'm not gonna hit you up. Just send it over.
All right, I'll do
Agreed.
it. I'll do
Yeah,
it.
that'd be a super good video for a lot of people to see, I think. So
Yeah, especially talking about the mentor deal. I mean, that's very useful for somebody just getting into it.
yep.
That's a good point. I shot a
some
bird. Now
people-
what?
Yep.
Right.
Some
Yeah.
people focus just too much on up to that point and not after.
Mhm.
So awesome. Well, guys, we appreciate you for coming on the Power Hour. It's been a good hour. Hope you guys had fun. I actually learned a ton
a lot.
again.
Yeah.
Every one of these I've learned a lot. So looking forward to the season, cooking up some food. Nate, can't wait to see that video to learn how I can better clean my birds. Everybody else, thanks for the tips. We didn't get any tricks this time, but so that's not going to work. But we definitely appreciate you coming on the Flushman Dustin Power Hour. We hope to have you guys stop back on our next one.
Yes. Thanks, everybody.
Do it.
Have a
Good
great
seeing you
night.
guys.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
Take it easy, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.